Alright, let's take a look at Ian Somerhalder, who plays Damon Salvatore in The Vampire Diaries. Start right off with a body shot, which there is something really weird going on here. It doesn't look natural to me. So you've got a kind of a ridged look in the trachea, which looks like the correct sort of Adam's apple. The tissue in the pectorals here does look square and natural to me. And here, where the coat is hanging on him and the shadow, it does make it look like we've got a bit of a indentation here. But the real cause of this is the oblique muscle, which in men who build up muscle will be a bit more kind of bulging. So it's just this part of it, this oblique anyway. So there are lots of muscles in the abdomen, but this one, I do believe this is the external oblique that lies just above the hip bone. In men who build up muscle, it does cause a bit of more of a bulge outward. But the thing is, I've really noticed on FTMs, the real smoking gun on them isn't whether they have a defined waist indentation, because, like I've been saying, when men build up muscle, it does change the line of the torso. But on FTMs, if they have a waist indentation, then so far I've seen without fail, they're going to have a lot wider hips. After that point, typically there'll be a continual gradual slope outward. But on this guy, what you're seeing is here, where the waist indents, it's the same kind of width as the hips down here, below the navel. So male hips, the widest point is supposed to be below the navel, and actually this guy's body looks consistent with that. This leg is being tilted forward more, so it makes the appearance of this portion of the hips look wider. But, you know, Adonis belt. So fingers are all bent here a little bit, but I do think we're seeing the index finger looking longer than the ring finger, which is more of a male digit ratio. The shape of the hands is looking male to me too, you know, pretty broad thumbs and knuckles. Just a male kind of appearance there. Wide jaw, wide mouth, wide set eyes, long brow, brow ridge, gap between mouth and nose being longer and typically male, legs looking straight and male, shoulders looking square and male. Right, another shirtless shot, because they are constantly undressing in the Vampire Diaries. If it was a female, I'd be expecting more of a curve from a little bit higher, more of a curve kind of outward. This guy has that kind of rounded ribcage that you get on some guys, which females just don't develop because it's a male trait which allows for greater oxygen intake and greater physical activity. His back is mostly straight, anything you see built up is muscle. But this lower back curve is not female, it's not quite high enough and it's not quite pronounced enough. Some men do have a slight tilt to the pelvis, and this looks completely consistent with that. Posterior looking male. I recall this guy saying that he was always kind of a skinny person and had to put on extra muscle for this show. You know, if he was an FTM, I kind of would expect him to have gone the steroid route and gotten really buff, but this looks to me just like a kind of normal guy. Neck looks quite long, to get that brow ridge and that sloping brow, square jaw, ear looking quite large. And also, if he straightened out his arm here, the wrist would be around here, and that would follow the crotch level for male arm length. Pronounced cheekbones, with a subsequently gaunt face thanks to the flesh of the face robing the strong bone structure, so it has more of a... it hugs the face more than with a woman who has more of a cushioned, kind of soft look to the face, because she lacks the strong bone structure and has more fat on the face. So yeah, wide mouth. And as mentioned, taking testosterone will lengthen the lower half of a woman's face, but even with that, usually the FTMs, they'll still have pretty female-spaced features. But he does have quite a large gap between the nose and the mouth, and quite a long face overall, long brow and everything. I think he'd be kind of hard-pressed to get this result with a female taking testosterone. Arms look like they hang straight down. Don't see any curving going on here. He does have that kind of shape to the ribcage that a lot of men have, which means that they have greater space in the ribcage, which is a male trait, designed so they can be more physically active. A bit younger here, but you know, still looking very male. That's if we saw it on a female tranny, people would be saying it's the tree trunk neck. And it is the long, strong male neck. So that defined jawline, I have never seen a jawline like that on a biological female. And yeah, there are all kinds of implants and surgeries they can do, but there's a balance to a face that gets thrown off when you do surgeries like that, and I think I have a pretty good eye for that kind of stuff. And this looks like a natural face to me. I don't think he's really had any work to the essential structure of his face done. I seem to recall that he has some kind of Native American ancestry. Not a large amount, but a bit. And French, as well as, I don't know what the rest is. Because he's American, it's probably something from the British Isles. A lot of Native American and French men and men from the British Isles will not have extraordinarily great height, nor will they have very broad shoulders and figures and so forth. But you can still tell they're male, and he's got that kind of look where he still looks male. Though he's, I think he's about 5'9" or 5'10". It's not overly tall, but, average height, I suppose. And yeah, this guy has a pretty eye shape, but they're actually quite large eyes. Deep set, they're fairly wide set as well. I have noticed that men often do seem to have thicker eyelashes than women do. Because I think when we started having makeup in the 20s, that's when the trannies really started coming out in the open and being put in the public eye. And, I mean, what better way to disguise them than to make female facial features obsolete by making the sole identifying mark of whether someone's female or not makeup. In the modern world, I'd say the majority of women wear mascara. I don't think I know anyone who doesn't. And that's playing on female insecurity, of course. Women want to be beautiful, and they're told they're supposed to have these thick eyelashes. That if you take a woman who's not wearing mascara and put her next to a man who is also not wearing mascara, typically, in most cases, you'll find that the man has eyelashes that look kind of thicker and darker, in my opinion. Testosterone does darken hair. So, if you see people in the same family, for example, a family of all blondes, and when they grow up, a girl from that family will typically have lighter hair than the boy, whose hair will be darker. Testosterone darkens things, typically. You'll also find that men and women of the same genetic descent, typically the male will be a little bit darker in the skin as well. But this fits pretty much all across the board, that things will be more prominent, darker, more developed on males than on females. And, you see that with the eyelashes, and so people these days will look at a man if he has thick eyelashes and say, "Oh, looking pretty girly. He's got girly eyes," but he doesn't. He's got masculine eyes, and we're seeing it the wrong way around because we've been having women wear eye makeup and mascara for generations. But that's what I found anyway. Again, you do see quite a few kind of ridges in the trachea, the Adam's apple, and everything. I've noticed also that people with a larger amount of First Nations ancestry, males typically will be kind of slighter and softer in appearance. I mean, this doesn't apply to all tribes. There's a lot of variation in tribes, but a lot of Native American tribes, the men don't really seem to grow beards, similar to East Asian people. They don't have much body hair. And a lot of First Nations men just kind of have a smooth look overall, which some people say is effeminate, but I just would say is a trait to their race. So, when you have people with that kind of ancestry, you do have to take that into consideration too. Male gaze, definitely an intense male gaze, and when you have a picture where it's the subject in question looking at you, it's easier to tell. I don't know what it feels like to be a man and look at the gaze, but when you're a woman and you look at the gaze, you just can't deny the projection of the male power, the male energy. It's like tangible. You don't feel that way looking into a woman's eyes. And, again, with a strong facial structure, it's a man. Very natural, male-looking facial hair too, in my opinion. Again, with the facial hair, so as mentioned, he does have a pretty eye shape, and when he's kind of smiling, the eyes do appear smaller, but the actual size of the eyes is not really tiny. the main thing about the eyes is the energy, and yeah, the energy is male. The differently sized eyes is not consistent in all the photos, so I mean, with some people, if you see it consistently a different size, then I would be more inclined to take that as an indication of hormone abuse. But when it's not consistent, I don't think you can rely on that. Still, quite a large skull, strong facial features, long forehead. As I mentioned before, some guys in my generation do struggle to grow a proper beard. And I think this guy is several years older than me, but, you know, he still fits into that kind of bracket of you know, the younger sort of selection of people these days. And then especially if you consider that he does have that First Nations ancestry, you might expect a bit of a struggle in the facial hair department, but, you know, it does seem to grow fairly high up on the face as well, on the neck. It's not incredibly thick, but, you know, it's a fairly full growth, and this does look very believably masculine to me. Put him next to Nina Dobrev, and they both look very much like the gender they present as, so, you know, she looks very female next to him, he looks very male next to her. Check out the kind of roughness of his facial skin compared to hers. It's very kind of supple and dewy compared to the more rough, rugged, masculine look. Very small ear, larger ear. All the features on him are more pronounced and male than on her. We've gone a bit younger again, so the part of the back of the curves is just too low and it's not pronounced enough to be a female body line. Again, the pectorals look totally normal. You don't see any weird roundness or drooping or pointing. You know, it looks like we've got square and even gradual distribution all the way through. That looks normal to me. You know, you do see male-looking muscle definition in here. It's not overly pronounced or steroid-driven, just looking kind of normal and male to me. Some visible veins, but not in that scary steroid way that you see some FDMs having. Here we've got very male-looking hands. You know, this kind of veiny, tendony, strong knuckle look is not a look I see on women, and I don't think women have that look. So I think this is maybe her name is Nikki Reed, maybe? I don't know who it is, but I think he married her, whoever she is. I have no idea if she's female or not. I'm not really looking into that, though the body doesn't look very female. Personally, I think it's dangerous to make assumptions about someone who's partnered with someone else. You know, sometimes you do see them pairing the FDMs with the MDFs, but sometimes you do see guys who look like natural males with clear MTFs. And, you know, it's been hypothesized that perhaps they have it in their contracts that they're meant to date these people for kind of a public appearance. You know, maybe it's some kind of right within the cult, within the high levels of Freemasonry and the Illuminati. You do hear rumors that there are some really strange kind of sexual rituals and so forth that they do, so, you know, you never know. You know, there could be all kinds of pairings of people, but this less in-shape body than what you see in the Vampire Diaries looks like a male body. You know, you don't have hips coming out, you just got, you know, the stomach kind of expanded a bit, which is what happens to men. No really curvy legs or anything. Shoulders broad. Shape of the chest isn't getting weird, even though he's gone a little out of shape and still got an Adonis belt, so that looks very male to me. Okay, check out the feet here. If a woman has feet like that, I think something is extremely wrong, so don't want to decide a whole person based on one feature, but if I just saw those feet, I would not think it was a woman, so yeah. Also, this shape to the lower leg is very masculine looking. For women, it's a much more gradual curve, because he's not really got much body fat. He's got the calf muscle up here, and then just the shape of the tendons and bones in the legs. But with women, they'll have a bit more fat all along, so it'll look more gradually curved than what this looks like. And these kind of square-looking knees, compared to a more sort of rounded knee. A square is more male. Lean legs, straight shape all over, hands looking big too. Male-looking face. Again with the overwhelmingly male appearance in the eyes. He's got quite full lips, but if it was a woman of the same genetic descent, I imagine her upper lip would also be fuller than his is. So that's a male-looking mouth. And here, he's smiling slightly, but if you look at the corner of the mouth, again, it goes up to the pupil in the eye, which is the proper dimensions, but his eyes are wider set than a woman's would be because his face is broader than a woman's would be. So, overall, very masculine-looking face. Again, all the same features we've discussed. Don't have any weird curves to the torso, the hips here, not as wide as the shoulders here. Again, this kind of shape here is the bulge of the oblique muscles, and the actual hip is not as wide after that point. Pokey bits in the shoulders where the collarbones go, defined collarbones, thick neck. Male-looking musculature that doesn't look like it's been caused by freaky drugs or anything, just normal. So this shoulder is tilted farther away, but you could still fit 3 skull sizes on the width of his shoulders. In this shot, it definitely looks like he's got a longer ring finger. So, I don't know if it's just the way he's holding the hand or what, but it does indicate a high level of testosterone, so. Sloping, brow ridge, pronounced cheekbone, defined jaw, that jaw, male ear, sloping brow, defined brow ridge. All these features just look so male. I can't imagine this being a girl. And here, the same shot I used with Nina Dobrev. Just mention again the narrow hips, long torso, wide shoulders, wider than the hips. This guy does always seem to stand with his shoulders kind of hunched up a little bit, so the arms do appear a little shorter. So this one's back a bit farther and this one's bent, but if this one was a little farther forward, the level of the wrist would appear a little lower. That would match the rule of the length of the arms to the crotch. Again, the shoulders could support 3 head widths, which is a male dimension. Mainly we've got narrower hips than shoulders here. The bones of the shoulders are wider than the hips and pelvis down here. I don't see any weird curves anywhere. Broad chest all the way across. I'm not seeing a defined Q angle, this is, even stepping forward, just looks like we've got totally straight male legs here. You can see the difference in how defined this curve is on a girl compared to a guy. He steps with his legs kind of more side by side, she steps with them more one in front of the other. More of a curve on this side than here. The height of the hips too, his hips are down here, hers begin very high up. Skull much larger than this skull. More definition in the trachea, thicker neck than on this person. All the facial features more pronounced, stronger on this one than on this one. Doesn't look like we've got any curve to the legs. Very normal male appearance. Male face we've talked about. Yeah, male shape. Not seeing any hips that there shouldn't be. And again, with the male gaze. Again, I would attribute the slighter frame to the heritage. I think he's only about 5'9" as well, so, I don't see a lot of really broad guys at that height. Guys that I know who have broader frames are usually taller than that as well, so, but do have these visible collarbones. The, proper looking musculature, no weird curves anywhere. Arms both bent again. Shoulders kind of held in that tight upward way. But, these arms don't look too short to me. Yeah, this is just too straight for a female back. If it was a female back, you'd see more of a curve kind of going in, and more of an outward curve. So it would be higher up, and the hips on this side would also look wider. Younger again. Very big, intense male eyes. don't think I would believe that's a girl if I saw it. It's even got longer hair here, but I wouldn't believe it's a girl. Just looks, there's something that just looks too male about him. This guy, kind of slight person, pretty eyes. But I mean, look at all the male traits on this person as well. You know, we've gone through all of them, and I would say they far outweigh any traits that people perceive as more feminine. And, you know, to top that all off, this guy does have a very male energy in the eyes. So, you know, for me, evaluating all of that, and being aware that there is a visible difference between FTMs and biological males, and, you know, especially with body shots, it's really easy to tell. I'd say that this guy is definitely a biological male, so, you know, if they're going to have biological males in film, they're probably going to pick ones that we would consider pretty boys because, you know, that fits the image they want to sell with their FTMs. But the thing is, there are real men in real life who have that look as well. And the difference is that, while they have a few traits that might look kind of what we perceive as pretty, they don't look properly feminine the same way that the FTMs do. So you'll have a male skeleton, a male frame, a male demeanor, male traits overall. Then, you know, some of the external traits like pretty eyelashes, a flush to the cheeks, you know. These things will throw people for a loop, but when you look at the actual body, the frame, the skeleton, and for me, the energy in the eyes, I'm just not seeing a woman here. This, to me, looks like a biological male. So Ian Somerhalder is a biological male, and that's that.